Right now on the National Weather Desk, tornado damage. Possible tornadoes touch down overnight in Florida, and the risk for more severe weather continues into today. Coastal flooding. Why is the threat greatest in the fall?
It's really increased significantly over the last 10 to 15 years.
Super El Niño. Why this could be a winner for the record books.
Atmospheric rivers will be even more devastating than they would normally be.
And that winter weather is already here in parts of the Rockies. Origins of life, the remarkable discovery NASA made in asteroid dust.
They are crucial elements in the formation of our own planet.
And a group of professors say they have the answer to Iowa's climate change challenges.
The theme of these scientists was very clear. Solar energy has value.
This is the National Weather Desk.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the National Weather Desk. I'm Angela Brown. A possible tornado touched down overnight in Clearwater, Florida. The calls for help started at around 2 a.m. At least 2 homes suffered damage, but so far no reports of any injuries. But as you can see, the damage and debris is all over the streets. The powerful winds even sent debris through a car's windshield. Look at that. There are also reports of damage in Citrus and Pasco counties. There's still a slight threat of more severe weather in Central Florida, including Tampa, Orlando, Jacksonville through today. Elsewhere across the country, there's also a risk for severe weather in the plains. Nebraska is at the center of this risk, of this threat. As you can see, other states could be impacted as well. That system will bring cooler weather and rain to the northeast this weekend. That storm system is bringing the first real taste of winter to many places in the Rocky Mountains. This is from the Flaming Gorge area along the Utah-Wyoming border. Several inches are expected before it stops snowing this afternoon. Ski resorts like Alta could top a foot or more, and chains were required to drive on several roads in the Lake Tahoe region of Nevada, including right here on the Mount Rose summit in the Meadows area. Several ski resorts also got a dusting as well. That follows last year's historic season, which lasted until July. And when it comes to bad weather, there's no place like Mountain Washington in New Hampshire. It had a dusting of snow over the past 2 days. This is a time-lapse video right here. You can see the ice growing on the left side of the screen. This morning, the temperature is 30 degrees with winds of 28 miles per hour. That means the wind chill is just 16 degrees. New England is having an unusual fall by running late on their first frost. Meteorologist Emily Santom explains.
Our area in Maine is broken up into 3 tiers by the National Weather Service in gray. And all 3 tiers have been late this year. The first tier includes the western Maine mountains, the second one includes the foothills, and the third, the coastline in southern Maine. There have been 2 frost advisories thus far. The first one was issued on September 27th for Tier 1, 6 days after the median date of September 21st. Tier 2 received the second advisory just this past Monday. That's 8 days later than the median date of October 1st. The third tier, the coastline, where we are, has yet to see a frost or freeze headline. As for the coastline, we haven't seen one yet, and the reason is that it's still too warm at night. In order for a frost advisory to be issued, overnight lows need to be 36 degrees or lower within the growing season for crops. And recent lows haven't seen that yet.
Well, this Saturday, everyone in the continental U.S. will have a chance to see something called an annular solar eclipse. Meteorologist Evan Chikvera looks at what makes an annular eclipse different from a traditional solar eclipse and where you can get the best views.
Well, we have the potential to see something pretty cool coming up this Saturday, October 14th. A solar eclipse will be taking place, and at its basic, that is when something moves in between our visual field and the sun. In this case, the moon. So the moon will be between us on Earth and the sun. It will not be a total solar eclipse, rather an annular solar eclipse. You can see the difference here. Still what we call the ring of fire visible around where the sun's rays aren't completely blocked out versus what we'll have here in 2024. This is a total solar eclipse where the moon completely obstructs view and it'll actually make day look like night. Now this weekend it will actually cool our temperatures to some degree or stop them from warming to a little bit. It'll have a slight effect on those temperatures as we look at where it is going to be most obstructed moving forward. This is the percent of totality, meaning the most, basically how much of the sun is covered. You've got your highest amounts in our western states, Albuquerque down towards El Paso and into southern Houston, your Galveston.
Oh, could an asteroid brought life to Earth? NASA says scientists found an abundance of water and more carbon than expected on a 4.5 billion-year-old asteroid. Now, this is the image right here of that asteroid sample. Administrator Bill Nelson says that may be how the building blocks of life got right here in the first place.
The carbon and water molecules are exactly the kinds of material that we wanted to find. They are crucial elements in the formation of our own planet. And they're going to help us determine the origin of elements that could have led to life.
The samples were collected in 2020 from the Bennu asteroid in space. NASA says the sample contains an abundance of material which scientists are still studying. And as we mentioned, the moon will create some pretty amazing sights in the sky on Saturday, but the moon also has a major impact on Earth, including on our coastal tides. October and November is when the Carolinas see their highest coastal tides. Sonia Stevens looks into why coastal flooding is more common in the fall.
Tidal flooding, saltwater flooding, king tides, perigean spring tides. Call them what you want, but these higher than normal tides are common in the low country, but especially in September, October, and November, when we typically have the highest tides of the year.
We know that tides are controlled by the moon phase and the proximity of the moon to the Earth, and it just so happens that those two things tend to kind of maximize during the fall season.
Add in onshore winds and tropical systems, it just adds to the rising tide level in the Charleston Harbor.
If you look across that full 100-year period, you see that the fall months, which are September, October, November, they account for about 50% of all the minor coastal flood events.
Although the total number is on the rise too.
It's pretty undeniable to look at the numbers that it's really increased significantly over the last 10 to 15 years, but really since about 2015, you can start to see the impact that those higher tide levels have just on the shape of the coastline.
Minor flooding occurs at 7 feet, moderate at 7.5, and major at 8 feet.
Tide levels gotten over that 8-foot threshold 48 times dating back to 1922. Well, 34 of those have happened just since 2015.
Another significant statistic showing that coastal flooding events are on the rise.
A group supported by more than 200 professors revealed Iowa's annual climate statement this week. As reporter Cedric Bolton tells us, the group is urging the use of solar power to mitigate the effects of climate change.
Iowa saw record-breaking heat from July to October this year. Experts cited in the 2023 Iowa climate statement say the best way to reduce future damages from climate change is to reduce emissions and find ways to make climate change less severe.
This means moving rapidly away from fossil fuels and especially coal in the production of electricity.
While Iowa is the nation's leader in per capita wind production, the state is far behind in solar infrastructure compared to other states. Peter Thorne from the University of Iowa says an increase in solar capacity will lessen the greenhouse gas emissions.
A 1-acre solar farm produces as much energy as approximately 100 acres of ethanol from corn. So solar could produce as much energy in Iowa as wind does today.
The theme of these scientists was very clear. Solar energy has value.
It's really important to see how it works. And I think I can point out that having a solar house and showing how it works to the Iowa State University students really helps understand the benefits.
And some news for those of you that are into giant pumpkins. A Missouri man squashed a world record. Steve Cuny paddled in a giant homegrown pumpkin about 38.5 miles down the Missouri River on Monday. It weighed, though, nearly 1,300 pounds. It set the new Guinness World Record for the longest ride by pumpkin boat. The previous Guinness World Record was 37.5 miles in an 846-pound pumpkin. And in Lake Superior in Michigan, a 100-year-old shipwreck has been discovered. You can see it right here. The still bulk freighter Huronton went down in 1920. 1923 World War I era boat after colliding with a freighter almost twice its size. The wreckage was found in 800-foot deep water. And coming up on the National Weather Desk, we'll look at how weather is impacting this year's grain harvest in Illinois.
I'm meteorologist Charlie Lopresti with Look at the Northeast. We have a pretty nice looking stretch of weather to end out the work week in the Northeast. This is about 3 o'clock this afternoon, or 3:30. There's a few clouds mixing in. There's a slight chance for a late day shower. It's all associated with an upper low spinning in southern parts of Quebec. Friday looks a little breezy. We'll get a northwest wind that will gust 20 to 30 miles per hour. That autumn foliage will be blowing around. Temps will be in the upper 50s and low 60s. We'll have to keep an eye on some of that rainfall moving in on Saturday.
I'm meteorologist Jonathan Myers, and here's a look at the Mid-Atlantic region. Good-looking day for most of us on Thursday, up and down that 95 corridor. Temperatures about 70 to 75, maybe even a little bit warmer, especially as you get down toward Virginia. And there should be some good amounts of sunshine as well, as our latest weather maker remains down to the south and pushes away into the Atlantic. Stays nice, too, for the end of the week, but some rain arrives as we head into the weekend. That's the scene here.
I'm meteorologist Vitas Reed. Here's a look at your forecast highs for the day. We're looking at 81 in Nashville, 69 in Atlanta, 72 in Birmingham, 73 Pensacola, 76 in Jacksonville, 92 West Palm. So all the heat and humidity down south. We do have some rain that's still moving just to the north along the Carolina coastline. It looks like this low will continue to track out over the Atlantic as we go through the day. Still some spotty showers and gusty storms over parts of Florida, but we will get some clearing through the southeast as we go through the overnight.
You are watching the National Weather Desk.
Scientists with the National Center for Atmospheric Research are using an experimental prediction system to forecast seasonal outlooks, and they believe this winter will be one for the record books. They're calling it a super El Nino. Emily Gracie sat down with Project Lead to learn what all that means.
Every year, there's some type of anomaly in the tropical Pacific, and when that anomaly is less than half a degree, it's kind of a wash. We don't really call that either El Nino or La Nina, but if it starts to exceed a half degree on either side, then we would label that. And when it gets above 1, we would probably call that a strong El Nino or a strong La Nina. And then when it gets above 2, it's kind of in a category of its own.
Can you compare the numbers that you're seeing for the upcoming months to any past El Nino events?
We, in our system, got an anomaly of plus 2.4 degrees Celsius. So this is above 2. This is definitely in this extraordinary category. And we've only seen 3 of those events in the past 50 years. In 1982, 83, and then again in 97, 98. And that was a major event that caused a lot of havoc worldwide. And then the last time we saw it was 2015, 2016.
The rest of hurricane season, is there any impact that we can expect there, or perhaps for next hurricane season?
I think generally when we have an El Nino, we have a warming in the Pacific. We also tend to get a warming in the subtropical Atlantic that goes along with that. And, warm water is what fuels hurricanes. I wouldn't be surprised if, we had some late season hurricanes this fall.
Okay, what about the upcoming atmospheric river season? Last year was kind of a doozy. What do you think for this year?
Yeah, it's a good question because, last year, as I said, we were in La Niña conditions, and yet we had the string of atmospheric rivers that hammered California. A general rule of thumb is, weather events are going to just get supercharged when we have El Niño. So I would think that atmospheric rivers would be, even more devastating than they would normally be with an El Niño adding to the mix.
And to see the longer version of this interview where Stephen shares why they are confident in his forecast, head over to YouTube. Just search the National Weather Desk and hit subscribe while you're there. Nevada's Bureau of Land Management is conducting another wild horse roundup. As of Tuesday, they took almost 400 Mustangs off the rangelands. But where do the horses go after that? Their Marigot takes us to an adoption center north of Reno.
On a brisk fall morning, another shipment of Mustangs arrives at the National Wild Horse and Burro Center. A few dozen horses who have roamed the range their entire lives now contained.
They adapt pretty well and pretty fast. As soon as they got to the first hay pile, they picked up a bite of food. They went to the water tanks.
Jeb Beck runs the largest BLM preparation and adoption facility in the country. Some years they can get as many as 6,000 horses. They've received almost 200 from the Calico Complex roundup near Gerlach, which started on October 1st.
Most of these animals come in fairly reasonable condition. We had a really good winter last winter, so we've got lots of forage this year. Animals are nice and strong and healthy, but we still have excess animals.
The horses will spend the next 60 to 90 days here in these corrals, getting treated by a vet for any minor injuries or health problems, getting their vaccines and boosters, and adjusting to life off the range. But at the end of that time, they are still wild animals.
They're completely wild. They're untouched. We've run them through a chute, we've branded them and vaccinated them, but we have done no training on them.
Many, especially the younger horses, are adopted, either from here or after getting training through a program in Nevada prisons. The remainder are put out to pasture at long-term facilities in the Midwest.
And those animals live there year-round. They're not gathered, they're not harassed, and they live out their lives on those facilities.
That is the sound of elk buggling as they wades through water in western North Carolina. Elk make that sound in the fall during rutting season, showing off basically their body for a female called a cow. He's also showing off to other bulls. The activity is most common at dusk and also at dawn. Well, the officials in Michigan are asking anglers out on the Great Lakes to keep an eye out for the splake fish. Meteorologist Heather Bricka shows us what it is and why local officials want to keep track of it.
Anglers enjoy fall fishing on Lake Superior for many reasons. One of those is hoping to cast a line and catch a splake. A splake is a cross between a lake trout and a brook trout.
It's a unique fishery and a really awesome opportunity this time of year because a lot of folks will just, travel through the Upper Peninsula, maybe want to wet a line. And with splake being so near shore and very vibrant and vigorous this time of year near shore, that shoreline accessibility is really a cool opportunity.
The Marquette State Fish Hatchery stocks all the Great Lakes with about 100,000 marked splake.
We stock 65,000 splake in Lake Superior annually, and that's spread between 3 different ports, which are Copper Harbor, Keweenaw Bay, and Munising Bay. And those fish, we're trying to get an idea for a few objectives, actually, and one primarily is return to the creel. And return to the creel, what that means is how many that we stock actually would be returned to the anglers or caught by the anglers.
They will be marking the fish to track the population.
So it's really interesting that we have a marked fish or a known age fish hitting the water and then knowing how much it can actually grow and maybe some of the size variations in growth between the ports and across the lake. So it's also interesting for us to look into our home ranges or the dispersal and how much these splake actually move.
The splake will be marked like this. Anglers should inspect it for missing fins or a jawbone clip.
We're going to be running that clipping or that marking project through 2025, and then we will finish out the evaluation for the next 5 years there following, so through 2030. So all anglers are encouraged to report those fish through 2030.
In Illinois, it's grain harvesting season for farmers, but for livestock farmers, it means double duty. Eliza Petrie explains.
All All hands on deck. That's the standard for swine farmer Thomas Titus and his family when it comes to their family farm.
We raise corn and soybeans primarily, but we also raise pigs and a few beef cattle as well. And so our family is extremely involved in every facet of our farm, and that's really what we're passionate about.
And this lifestyle is one that has become less common through the years. Titus shares that farmers represent about only 1.8% of the U.S. population. With this in mind, him and his family continue to work on building the relationship from themselves to their consumers.
Every meat product that you purchase in a grocery store is raised by a farmer just like us. And so, the care that's going into those animals to making sure that we're being able to provide a healthy food supply is extremely important for us.
As the balance of raising livestock while also managing their grain operation may be daunting, he says both undertakings complement each other in the end.
With raising livestock and raising pigs, we're essentially a natural recycler. And so, we grow the crops, we feed it to our animals, and then we apply the byproduct or manure from those animals back to our soil. So it's just a continual cycle for us, throughout the pig's life cycle and the corn and soybeans rotation as well.
And before a short break, we take to the skies over Oklahoma for a look at some great fall foliage.
Well, good morning. I'm meteorologist Phil Kelly. Strong cold front moving through the Midwest, really influencing the weather over the next couple of days. Warm ahead of it, temperatures in the mid-70s to low 80s. Lots of rain into the central plains, and as that cold front continues its push to the east, we'll see that rain spread through the Chicagoland area and into southwestern lower Michigan as well. Still dry tomorrow as temperatures into the Ohio Valley push to near 80.
Good Thursday morning to you. Meteorologist Chris Suchan. Look at our forecast today across the region. We're going to get a lot more sunshine in Louisiana and Arkansas, East Texas. Highs very nice, 70s and low 80s. A little hotter as you head into the central part of Texas where some 90s are possible. This cool front moving across Friday. Behind it, windy, cooler 60s and 70s for highs, 80s and 90s out ahead of it, and just a slight rain chance as it moves south Friday.
Well, hi, everybody. It's Thursday morning here in the West, and we're talking about some brighter and warmer conditions in the PNW. Back into the low 70s today in the Rose City of Portland, Oregon. Phoenix, a 90-degree afternoon in the Valley of the Sun, but you see the scattered showers keeping things cool in the inner mountain area. Big disturbance. Look at that snow in parts of Wyoming and even coming into the high terrain outside of Denver's Rocky Mountains later today. And that's the scene from here.
Weather Window, presented by the National Weather Desk.
The sky often produces pretty pictures when water droplets scatter sunlight into rainbows. Here, nature hangs its paintings up high in Sedona, Arizona. Other times, lower to the ground, like this rainbow in Washougal, Washington. And fall colors continue to dazzle with bright brilliance. In other places, they cloak the hills in rusty-hued, thick, leafy patches.
For more content like this, follow the National Weather Desk on Instagram.
Our meteorologists across the country post great weather content on their social media accounts. Let's do a quick test of your weather wit with a recent TikTok post from meteorologist Natalie Walters.
Okay, so what is hotter, lightning or the sun?
This isn't even a close contest, as lightning is about 5 times hotter than the sun. A single bolt of lightning can heat the air to be up to 50,000 degrees Fahrenheit, while the sun is just a mere 10,000 degrees Fahrenheit.
And if you're looking for more content just like that, be sure to check us out on Instagram, where we post a short weather quiz every Wednesday. Just search the National Weather Desk or scan the QR code in the bottom left corner of your screen. We're going to be right back. Thank you so much for joining us. Tomorrow on the National Weather Desk, we've got everything you need to know about Saturday's annular eclipse. I'm Angela Brown. Make it a great Thursday, and we'll see you right back here tomorrow.